So, welcome to the second palming live stream lecture. So this is the side steal and the side slip. So we'll go into the differences between these two basically concepts, and generally they retain the same sort of core idea, but yeah, it's just some minor differences here and there. But without further ado, let's go into the history of the side slip and the side steal and what actually makes them different. So the first time that the side slip, it was actually first published as a side slip. The first time that a side slip has actually been published was actually in the Modern Card Artist, which is, well, it was translated from a German magazine. So I can't speak German, so I'll have to say it in an English translated name. So that was published back in 1896. And it's an unnamed palming method from the center of the deck. It was by F.W. Conradi. It's not quite the side steal just yet, or not quite the side steal that we know of today, but it is pretty similar, right? The first, I guess the first side slip handling, I know I just said like the first side slip handling was the one that I said before, but I guess this is universally recognized as the first side slip handling, right? So this is the first side slip handling. This is by Walter G. Peterkin. This was published under the name of 3 New Passes, Pass number 1, and was published in Mahatma back in 1901 by George H. Little. And then most recently, I guess, from Dr. Jacob Daly too. So everyone just sort of unanimously says, "Oh yeah, this is where the side slip as we know it comes from today," even though there is like a prior publication. So this is the side slip by Nate Leipzig. So this was published as part of the ubiquitous cards first method, and he basically teaches the side slip, but he uses it as a displacement from the bottom to actually the top of the deck, which I can't do that well because but yeah, so because my arm is an awkward angle, so yeah, so he does that as a displacement, and he published that in The Art of Magic back in 1909, I want to say. So that was the first time that the side slip was actually mentioned by name, I believe. Before it was just like unnamed stuff, and then it was just the 3 New Passes, right? So it was a pass before, but now this time it's actually like a side slip. And then we can move on to our next key publication for the side slip, which is actually our favorite book, Expert Card Technique, which was published back in 1940 by G. Newgard and Frederick Browie. So there, the side slip is largely uncredited, much like everything else in Expert Card Technique, but it's there. And then there's also some Max Malini handlings of the side slip in there as well. In the 3rd edition of the Expert Card Technique, back in 1950, so that's when the 3rd edition was actually first published. It was actually published by George Stark. It actually includes an additional section. This additional section is by Dr. Jacob Daly. So if you don't know what the difference between like the other publications and the 3rd edition specifically of Expert Card Technique, the 3rd edition actually includes additional sections by Di Vernon and Dr. Jacob Daly. Dr. Jacob Daly's section is has some additional stuff for the side steal, right? So his section as a whole is called Side Steal and its finer points. And then finally, we can move on to our last key point for the side steal, which is Ed Marlowe. Ed Marlowe, who is pretty much recognized as the founder of the normal or the modern day side steal, published a manuscript back in 1957 which is called Side Steal. I actually have a second printing of Ed Marlowe's side steal over here, so this is a second printing. So yeah, this is a second printing over here, so that's just a cool little pamphlet, I guess. So yeah. So while we normally attribute like the side steal to Ed Marlowe, there's actually a whole other like lineage actually prior to him. So what's the difference? What's the difference between the side slip and the side steal? Because most people actually use them sort of interchangeably, and most people aren't actually aware of the existence of a side slip. So generally, especially in earlier literature, the distinction between the two sort of moves is that a side slip involves slipping. So I'm gonna butcher this so hard because okay. So generally, the side slip involves slipping the card from the center of the deck to actually anywhere near the top or anywhere near the bottom. So it is a control. The side steal, however, is actually stealing the card from out of the deck, right? So you would have a card selected, right? And then you would actually have it just sort of stolen out of the deck, right? So it is a steal. So, I mean, obviously it's in the name, but still, it's important to make those distinctions. But generally, they both have the same core technique. For the sake of this video, I'll use this distinction. But again, historically, especially in the section of expert card technique, Dr. Jacob Daly states that the side slip evolved into the side steal. So they're technically the same thing, just in different periods of time. But again, that's very, very convoluted. So I'll just stick with the side slip and side steal just being a control and a palm respectively. All right, let's get into the standard get ready. So before I get into the side slip or the side steal, I'd like to present the standard get ready because the get ready is basically the core technique that's shared between the two techniques. So yeah, let's just get right into it. So you're going to hold the deck in a standard dealer's grip. And you're going to have a pinky break below of the card that you want to palm. All right, I'm just going to use the actually, you know what? I'll use a different card. I'll use a card from a different deck. So actually, no, not this one. Yeah, okay, let's just use this. I don't know how the finish is going to interact with this deck, but hey. Okay, so you're gonna have the card that you want to steal above of your pinky break, right? So I have my pinky, and then I have the card I want to steal above of it. All right. So most of the side steal descriptions will have you actually move your index to the side, to the right long edge of the deck over here. But you will probably already know how much I hate grip changes, so I just keep this all in a standard dealer's grip. Your left middle ring and pinky finger are going to press the deck, so it's going to move the deck against the fat of your thumb. And then your left thumb is also going to lay on top of the deck, and it's basically just going to point towards the corner. All right, so now you have this sort of vice position that's gripping and anchoring this deck in place. And you'll realize how important that this amount of pressure is because, well, if you don't have this amount of pressure, everything's just going to fall apart. So you want to keep this amount of pressure. The important thing is that you're not bending the deck. You're just keeping you just keep enough pressure to just anchor this deck in place. Your right hand is going to come over, and it's just going to grip the deck in a biddle grip. Now, what you'll notice about this biddle grip is that it's not actually sort of a conventional biddle grip, right? For most biddle grips, it's sort of shifted on top like so. But this time, this biddle grip is actually laying off to the side, right? It's actually covering most of the right edge of the deck. And this sort of biddle grip is going to be relevant. But the reason why it's actually like so is that it provides additional cover for the move. And also, you'll notice that my thumb is actually basically on the same line as the short edge over here. All right, and again, that's going to be important as well. So again, this is a biddle grip shifted off to the right. So now that you have this, you're going to insert your pinky deeper into the break, right? So we originally had like this little break. You're going to widen up the break, and then you're going to insert your pinky in there. Now you have this, you're going to contact the tip of your pinky over here. If I can focus on it, you're going to contact the tip of your pinky onto the selection. So the card above of the break over here. So the tip of your pinky is contacting it. Now, because of all the pressure applied onto the deck, as well as the right hand basically anchoring the top packet of the deck should not move at all, right? So even though you widen up this break, this should still remain the exact same. All right. So now you have this. You're going to move your pinky. You're going to push your pinky up and to the right. So what this causes this card to do is to actually just kick out. But because we're kicking it out from the bottom left corner, you'll notice that this card is actually angle jogged now. If we kicked it off from the center, this would become a side jog. Or if we kick out from the middle finger, this would go from the corner. So, but because we kicked it off from the bottom left corner, this corner is the most exposed from this card, right? So regarding the smearing of cards, this smearing of cards happens because you don't have enough pressure on the deck when you actually kick this card out. So this leads to the smearing of cards. All right, so what you want is that you want to apply enough pressure with your right hand, with your thumb, and on the rest of the deck so that it anchors everything in place so that when you kick this card out, only one card goes and the rest of the deck stays in place. So that's what's important about the pressure on top of this, on top of the deck. All right, again, all of this is done underneath of the cover of the right hand. Now, what can happen is that your right pinky can now contact this upper right corner of the selection. And what this does now is that it gives this card a pivot point. So now when you actually have your middle ring and pinky finger just push to the right, when it pushes this card to the right, this actually moves it to the right, but more importantly, it actually rotates this card using this point as a pivot point. So it does sort of like, sorry, I'm going to try and visualize it. So it sort of does this, right? And it revolves around of your right pinky. So it sort of does, I don't know if I can visualize it. Hold up. If I have this, so it sort of pivots around of the pinky, just like so. And you're going to continue pushing this card until this bottom right corner over here hits the side of your palm over here. All right, and now you'll notice that this basically also puts the bottom left corner at the fat of your thumb, which is the ideal position for a classic palm. All right, so now that you've rotated this card into position, all you need to do now is to just apply a slight bit of pressure with your pinky finger over here to bend this card a bit. And now you'll have this nice diagonal pressure going from the pinky, from the upper right corner to the bottom left corner over here at the fat of the thumb. So now you're basically in a quasi classic palm. So it's not really in a full classic palm yet, because if we see it from the side, it's not popped up into the my palm just yet. So realistically, you don't need to apply that much pressure just yet, right? Because you're not putting this into classic palm just yet. You're just anchoring this card into your palm, and that's it. All right, so your right hand is still somewhat relaxed. All right. Now the great thing about this is that you can actually delay the move in general. All right, so now that once you have this card anchored into your right hand, you can just relax, right? You can just relax your hand and then just talk if you want, and just chill, right? Because you already have this card ready for the side slip, for the side steal, so you don't have to worry about this card over here. you can just do whatever, right? And then when the time comes, you can just do maybe a side slip, for example, right? Or you can do a side steal, which oof, I'm gonna need to redo all that. And then we could do a side steal, right? So you can delay the move just by stopping. So you can delay the move by just stopping it at the get ready. And I think that that's a problem with a lot of social media magic, especially, is because most people are like, okay, I gotta do moves in one go, because that's social media, right? You have to do things fast, and you have to do things like visually and everything, right? But that's not really how it works for the most part, right? You can relax, right? You can take your time, you can just do whatever, and then when the time comes, you can do whatever move that you want. So let's get into some more get ready stuff. So you can actually do a couple of alternate get readies. So from Nate Leipzig from the Art of Magic, you can do it with the bottom card. So all I need to do is curl in my fingers, contact the bottom card with my ring finger, and just extend it, and then it's already in a good position for a side steal, right? So yeah, that's the first alternate get ready that you can play around with. The second one is from Walter G. Peterkin from Mahatma. So that was the one that I spoke about already. So it's the same thing. It's just a nice dribble. So you have a card selected from a dribble. So you're gonna want to have them look at the top card of the bottom packet. So this card over here. All right, so they're gonna take a look at it and whatever. And as you replace this top packet, your thumb is just going to curl in, and it's going to push this card off to the side. So this is very similar to Edward Victor's side jog to break, which we already spoke about. So side jog to break, sorry. So we have this, and as this packet goes over the deck, you push this card over, and you square everything up. So now you have a side jog, but you're still exposing this upper right corner, which gives you the opportunity to just contact it with your right pinky finger, and then extend the other fingers, which gives you the opportunity to rotate it, and now you have it in position for a side steal or a side slip. The other one is, again, another dribble alternate handling. So this time you're going to have the spectator take a look at the bottom of the top packet. So say stop, and this is going to be it. That was the same card, but whatever. So now as you prepare to place this packet back on top of the deck, you're just going to relax your left fingers, right? You're going to relax them, and this actually exposes the pad of your left fingers over here. All right, so now what you can do is that as you prepare to place this packet back on top, you're this bottom card is just going to contact the pad of your fingers, and because your pinky is in position already, this card is just going to rotate around of your pinky over here as you place this card down, right? So this is, you're not really applying any sort of pressure with these left fingers. It's all friction based. The next thing you can do is actually an insertion. So you're just going to have a card selected. You're going to insert the card and out jog it, just like so. And you're just going to execute a diagonal jog, which I already taught on the channel. So you have your middle finger and your thumb resting near the corners of the card, the top corners of the deck over here. They're not on top of the corners, they're slightly below it. All right, so they're applying pressure on these parts of the deck. your right hand is going to come over and contact the upper left corner with the middle finger. And then when you push this card in, because of the pressure and the way that your right hand is extended, when you push this card in, it causes this card to actually angle jog. All right. And now you can just execute the move as per usual. You can contact this upper right corner with the right pinky, and then using your left fingers, you can just push this card outwards, and now you're back in this nice position. The last thing, I didn't really plan on teaching this, but might as well. So you're just going to do it from a spread, right? So you're going to have a card selected, so the Jack of Hearts. As you close this spread, you're just going to relax the pad of your fingers, and this card, because of the pad of your fingers, is going to stay behind from pure friction, right? So it's just going to go over here, and the rest of the cards just slide above of this card. So this card stays side jogged over here, right? So you have a card selected, right? And then you close the spread, and now you still have this card side jogged over here, right? Which gives you the perfect opportunity to just execute your get ready. So now this card is in perfect get ready position for the side slip, for the side slip or the side steal. Okay, so here's just something I forgot to add in the live stream. So as an alternate get ready to the side steal, what you can actually do is just a peek, a spectator peek. All right, so I do this Shane Cobalt-esque peek, but you can do anything else realistically. You could also hold it in the dealer's grip, have your thumb lying off to the left long edge of the deck, and then just riffle through, and they could just riffle off and then ask the spectator to say stop whenever. Right, so you can do this sort of deal, right? But personally, I do the Shane Cobalt thing, but honestly, any peek will work. So what you're going to do is that you're going to do the spectator peek of your choice, right? So you're going to land on whatever card that you want, so the King of Diamonds, and then you're just going to stick your pinky in there, and then just riffle off the rest of the deck. So now you have a pinky break above, below of the selection, just like the King of Diamonds is over here, right? So now that you have that, you can just do whatever that you need, right? You have your pinky break already, so you can just have your right hand come over, your pinky sticks in, kicks the one card out, and then you could just do the side steal as per usual. So here's just a slight finesse regarding the get ready, because I'm not the biggest fan of actually pushing upwards with the pinky, because this actually causes a couple of problems. So one is that if you have a shorter pinky or longer nails, that might be a bit of a pain, because I was actually struggling with it yesterday until I trimmed my nails. I was like, ugh, yeah, no. This might also cause a separation to form in the deck. So if you're not too familiar with the side steal, if you actually take a look, there's actually a slight bit of separation when I actually push upwards with the pinky, right? And this is because, well, first off, my pinky is kind of short, and this also is a result of not having my right hand on top. So this is why having the right hand on top is so important. But here you can still see that there's just a sliver of a separation in the deck, right? So those are two problems when you push upwards onto the selection. So if pushing upwards on the selection isn't the answer, then pulling down on the selection is. So I have a break above of the card that I want to palm. Right, so my selection is now below of my break. I'm going to Obviously it's the same thing. My right hand goes over the deck to hide everything that goes on behind the scenes. Here I'm going to insert my pinky, so then the pad of it is actually contacting the selection over here, so it's going to become a deep pinky break. So now obviously remember to apply extra pressure with your middle finger and your ring finger just to make sure that the deck is anchored in place. All right, so now you have this, my pinky, using just pure friction, if I just pull it off to actually the right, this card just comes along for the ride. So now I have this in a nice angle jog position. So if my right hand is on top, I can just get into my position for a side slip or a side steal already, just from one hand. And now this means that yeah, because I'm pulling down on it, you won't see actually any sort of separation in the deck. All right, so the main reason why this separation is happening is because I'm pushing upwards on the deck, and I'm also trying to push it to the right, so this causes it to actually just drift to the right. But because I'm pulling downwards on the bottom packet and doing this will not separate. This is anchored in place. So that's one of the reasons why I decided to actually pull this card from underneath rather than pushing it from on top, right? So there's a very technical reason as to why I actually do that. But one of the reasons why I actually decided to do this was that now you can do the get ready as a whole one-handed. So you have your hand talking off to the side and you have your pinky break, right? So you're just talking. Here you can just insert your pinky, pull this card free. So now I'm already basically halfway into the get ready. So my hand is perpendicular with the floor. And when I'm ready, I just bring my two hands together. My right hand is now covering most of the deck, and then straighten out the deck. All right, so this hides the entire get ready process, right? Because if I just did this and I did this and then I put my right hand over, you would see this card. So I have to have my hand perpendicular, my right hand is going to cover most of the deck, and then I straighten out the deck. All right, but now we can get into the side slip. I know that most of you will probably complaining, oh, this took so long to get into like the actual meat of the move, but all these finesses, all these get readies are important, because if you don't know how to get into the move, what's the point of learning a move, right? So generally the side slip is actually done under the context of squaring up the deck. So execute your get ready with whatever get ready that you want. All right, so I have the card in quasi classic palm. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to extend my index finger. So usually when I do a bill grip, I have it curled on top, but now I actually want to extend it so then contacts the short edge as well. All right, and now this is the important part. My right index and my thumb will never come off of the deck. They will always be in contact with the short edge of the deck. This is important to keep up with the ruse of it being like a squaring action, even though it is not really a squaring action. All right, so my index and my thumb will always remain in contact with the deck. All right, whereas these fingers, they will come off eventually, but these two are there for the duration of the move. All right, so now that you have your card in quasi classic palm, so again, I'm not applying too much pressure into it, I'm just applying enough pressure to maintain this card in my right hand. All right, so I'm going to move my right hand to the right like so, and if you get a bit of a smearing of cards over here, just apply a bit more pressure with your thumb. All right, so I'm going to move my right hand to the right. I'm going to move this until this card over here clears the deck like so. And once this card clears the deck, now I can apply a bit more pressure onto the card to put this card into a full classic palm. All right, so the moment it clears the deck, I just flex it a bit, and then this card pops into a classic palm. So now this card is completely clear from the deck, and my index and my thumb are at the corners closest to the right over here, right? And now comes time for the replacement. And as I'm going to move my hand to the right along with the palm card, I relax this card, causing it to actually just flatten out and touch the face of the deck over here. So it just relaxes and it touches the deck over here. So it touches it touches the deck. So now when I continue moving my hand to the left, because this corner is touching the deck, this lets it slip underneath of my thumb as I move my hand to the left. All right. So over here, it moves to the left. And now when my right hand is actually covering the entire deck, my left finger, so my middle ring, pinky finger, my index too, can just square up this top card with the rest of the deck, because you don't want it to be like this by the time like my right hand clears view, right? So you want it to square up the deck while my right hand is on top over here, right? So now that you have this card square with the rest of the deck, I'm just going to move my right hand one last time to the right to complete the squaring action. All right. So the entire thing should be basically 3 counts, right? It's going to be move once to the right, move once to the left, and then move once more to the right. So it's supposed to be a squaring action, like so. So this is the entire step that it's supposed to the entire action that's supposed to emulate. Now, the problem with this is that, well, you'll notice that for the most part, most of the side slips or the get readies are done with a pretty squared up deck, right? So you have something like this. Why would you need a squaring action if the deck is already squared? And there's just no reason for you to square up the deck if it's just already square. So you need proper context for the squaring action, because or else it'll just look like this. And this looks really stupid, right? Unless you have this. If you have this and you gave it a squaring action, this looks so much, well, it makes more sense and you don't look like a total buffoon, right? So that's why I actually included the spread one, right? So you have a card selected, right? You get your side jog, and then you start executing a side slip. All right, you might get more of a smearing of cards, but that's fine. That gives you more of an excuse to just square everything up, right? So that's why I actually included the spread version of the get ready, because you need a messy deck to justify the fact that you have a squaring action. All right, that's what people don't talk. Okay, I've seen so many people talk about like, oh yeah, you can replace the card with a squaring action, but every time they talk about that, the deck is squared already, so there's no reason for you to square the deck already. So it becomes really, really redundant. For the side steal, it's actually even easier. So you have your card ready for ready after the get ready, right? So you have your card here. I actually don't really do much with the side steal. So I just move my hand to the right, and once this card clears the deck, I just flex my pinky to put it into a full palm. All right. So there's 2 things that happens at once. I'm going to move this card, and once this card clears, I'm going to extend my index finger. And then I'm going to flex this card into a classic palm. And now my right hand just drops to my side. So usually when I do the side steal, it's actually meant as a moment of relaxation, right? So it's meant to just be this, right? I can talk, and I just drop it off this side over here. The side slip is way more technical because you have to do it under scrutiny, right? You have to do the squaring action under the guise of replacing. You have to do the replacement under the guise of the squaring action. Whereas the side steal, you're just boop and then you're done, right? And then the hand sort of fades out of focus because you're just talking, you're just relaxing. So the palm card should never be the focus. All right. So my handling of the side steal is pretty similar to my DPS, where once the card is palmed, my Dori hand just relaxes and fades out of existence because the main focus is over here. Right. But if you're having trouble with diverting attention to the deck rather than to your relaxed hand, there's a couple of ways that you can actually just easily put focus onto this, right? Because people will naturally draw their eyes on the object closest to them. So what you can do is you can just move the deck in front of them, ask them to cut the deck, right? And meanwhile you have like the card palmed, right? So for example, I have the card palmed. Oh yeah, you can just cut the deck, maybe, or under the guise you can under the guise of a forward action, you could just spread the deck, right? Or you can even ask them to just hold out their hand, right, and do whatever, place their hand on top, and all this time actually have the card palmed in my hand, right? So that's just a way for them to sort of forget that your hand was there, right? And again, much like every other palming technique, this is a move meant to be done sort of nonchalantly, right? You should never feel sort of pressured or sort of tense while you're doing a palming technique, right? You should have a card selected, right? You should just execute the get ready, relax a bit, maybe just talk a bit, right? Hand them the deck, and then that's it. Yeah, it should feel like nothing else, because realistically nothing has happened with the deck, but something has happened to the selection, right? So that's the side steal. So here are a couple of tips regarding the side steal. So if you hear a click when the card clears the deck, I'm going to try and do it. So you have this. If you hear this is probably because the plane of the card is different from the deck. So if you have this card sort of bent and you try and clear this card out of the deck, this causes this corner to actually snap off of the deck over here. So what you want is that until this card clears the deck, make sure that the corner is still relatively on the same plane as the deck, right? So you have this corner over here. Make sure that you're not trying to like bend this card over here or bend this card upwards. Make sure that this corner at the very least is on the same plane as this deck, right? And that should minimize the click or the snap of this corner from the rest of the deck. So if you're having trouble with that, just relax your palm, right? So just relax the palm. Again, you're not supposed to go into a full classic palm until this card is fully out of the deck anyways. So just relax your palm, maintain that quasi classic palm, and once this card is fully cleared, then you could push this card into place, right? And that is the side steal and how to get rid of the click. Now there's another problem regarding the side steal, and that is if you have this weird wrapping motion. So some people actually have this weird like cupping motion regarding the side steal, which is really bizarre. The reason why you're actually doing this wrapping motion is because you're trying to reach for the card to put it into a classic palm, right? So your right hand is trying to go into and grab this card, when realistically you don't have to do that. You're okay from the get ready. This card is already basically in a classic palm. So once this card clears the deck, all you need to do is just flex your finger and pop this card into a classic palm. So you're bringing this card into the palm of your hand rather than the other way around. So here are just a couple of applications regarding the side steal. So the first one is obviously as a control. You can do it as a side slip, right? So that is one of the main applications of the side slip, right? Yeah. The next thing is that you can do it as a steel. So obviously that is the side steel that we just spoke about, like for the majority of this video, right? The other thing is that you can do it as a color change on the deck. So pretend, oh yeah, you have the 4 of diamonds selected, right? And now here, right? You can see it, right? Now watch. And then you just replace the card back on top of the deck, just like so. All right, so you can do it as a color change on the deck. The other thing they can do is that you can do it as a color change, but free-handed. So this is something that was published in New Era Card Tricks back in 1897 by August Roderberg. So this was called the Excelsior change by Adrian Plate. So what you can do is that you're essentially going to do the T Nelson. You're going to do the Nate Leipzig sort of get ready for the side steal. You're going to curl in your bottom fingers. Your ring finger is going to contact the bottom card, and it's just going to push this card off. All right, and obviously your right hand is covering most of the deck, so you're just going to push this card off from the side. You're going to palm this card, right? And then you're just going to replace it on top of the deck. So here, that's how you do the side steal as a color change, free-handed and away from the deck. And obviously, if some things can be used as a color change, then they could be used as a vanish as well. So you can have the card over here, right? You execute your get ready, and then you have a card. You have a card palmed. I don't know. I'm struggling with this. You have a card palmed, right? And then you just execute a replacement the same way that you do a color change, right? And that's how you you vanish a card. And you can also do it as a production. So if you do for example, if you do facing the deck that I taught on the channel, you can do facing the deck, facing the bottom card rather. You execute a reverse on the bottom card. So this is the Ace of Spades. Here, if I just do the same Nate Leipzig get ready, which is just curling in my fingers, pushing this card from the bottom, palming it. Here, if I just replace this card on top, it just looks like a production. So that is another application for the side steal. Also, I didn't mention this application in the application section just because it didn't feel like an application of the side steal, but it felt more like an application of just any sort of palming replacement, but I'll still put it in for the sake of, yeah. So the side steal, of course, if you use it with any sort of replacement, can be used as a reverse, right? So if you have the if you're just doing it like the side steal or whatever, and you have it the card palmed out, right? Here, if you want, you can just do the replacement of your choice. So you can even do Paula Paul's useful equipment to just reverse the card in the center of the deck. You just like slap the card on top and then just place it on the table if you want. Right, I'm just tossing out ideas because honestly, any replacement, as long as it's opposite of the deck, of the orientation of the deck, will cause it to become a reverse. So that's just another brief idea that you can do for the side steal. Alright, so if you're interested in learning more about the side slip and the side steal, there are a lot of resources out there, but there are a couple that I want to point out. So Revolutionary Card Technique by Ed Marlowe, that's where you'll find this. That is where you'll find the booklet for side steal in book form, right? That is where you'll find that is where you'll find everything just condensed together. All right, there's also Mnemonica by Juan Tamariz. That is where you'll find some interesting applications for the side steal. Max Malini, King of Magicians, Magician of Kings by Steve Cohen. That you'll notice that in Expert Card Technique, again, like I mentioned in the history section, there are a lot. There's a section for the side slip by Max Malini. Here you'll get some more ideas regarding the side slip by Max Malini. Right, The Family by Ben Earl. He has like an entire month dedicated to the side steal. Side steal by Jason England. So Jason England has a video tutorial on the side steal. And then Effective Card Magic by Bill Simon. That's going to be an ebook on library. So yeah, so that's going to be it for the side steal and the side slip in general. It's a move that I enjoy playing around with, but I don't really necessarily use. And this is because, well, it's not because I don't like the side steal, right? I like the side steal, but it's mainly because I like my left hand palms a lot more. Because again, like I mentioned in the lowy palm video or the live stream, the advantages of a left hand palm is so much better than a right hand palm because you have the deck to cover all the dirty work, right? So if you do a bottom palm, I have this deck to cover the palm. Whereas with a top palm, my palm is the only cover for this card, which is, I mean, it's not bad, but you also have all these windows, right? It's not a completely flawless palm cover, right? Whereas with this, you can have like a spread or whatever, and it will act as even better cover for a palm. So that's why I much prefer my left-hand palms. But again, for a center palm, the side steal is a great move. I just prefer other moves to get into a classic palm. All right. And that's the great thing about Magic. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean that you don't have to like it, right? All our brains sort of just click differently. So, you know, if you find a use for the side steal and you want to use it, then go ahead and use it. Who am I to stop you? That's gonna be it. Stay healthy, stay safe, and see you guys next time.